I'm Mia Friedman, and welcome to No Filter. The trajectory of your average heterosexual relationship is kind of predictable and usually the same. You meet, if it progresses, you move in together, you get engaged, you get married, you have a baby, you have another baby, maybe you even have another baby. And that's kind of just the way you know things are going to go. But if you're a gay couple, it's not that simple. I mean, apart from the fact that, it's not legal to get married, the whole idea of having a baby is also not simple. It's not something that can happen by accident. You really have to plan it. You really have to want it. And so when Aaron Elias met Jayson Brunsdon 18 years ago at Charlotte Dawson's Hens Night in a gay nightclub in Sydney's Oxford Street, the path to becoming parents was never going to be straightforward. So much happened along the way in this story. Aaron's written a book about their journey called Designer Baby, a surrogacy journey from fashion to fatherhood. Jayson Brunsdon was pretty famous, he's still pretty famous. He is a very well-known fashion designer. I've known him for about 25 years from when he was the creative director of Morrissey & Edmiston, which was the fashion label of the 90s. And their relationship has encountered so many interesting twists and turns, from a cancer diagnosis to the desire to have children, to working out how that was going to be, to a massive drama that happened halfway through the pregnancy, to finally bringing their son back to Australia. This is my interview with Aaron and Jayson Brunsdon. First of all, mazel tov to you both. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
My heart is so full. When I heard you were becoming a father, Jayson, I've not met you before, Aaron, but I was just full of love and excitement and all of those things. And then I sat down to read the book. I heard that you'd written it and I wanted to talk to you both about it. And then I sat down to read it last night thinking that it would be and this happened and this happened and this happened. But it's a page turner. Yeah. I was like crying and I was laughing and I was full of so many emotions. Yeah. And that's just me reading it. So I can't even imagine what it's been like for you two.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
So first of all, Aaron, congratulations for writing it, because it's a really great achievement. Congratulations on the beautiful Roman, who's how old now?
2 and 2 months.
Jayson, where do we start? The first thing I noticed is that on your first date, you went to see a Holocaust movie.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
That's a big call.
Yeah.
Your choice, Jace?
No, his choice.
Of course, I'm
Great.
Jewish.
Yeah, that's a big test.
Yeah.
Come to see the movie about the Holocaust and let me see how you react.
It was kind of second date. Well, it was first official date. The first date was the night we met.
The night you met, of course, was at Charlotte Dawson's Hens Night at a nightclub.
Yes.
That's right.
And you were there. You were newly single.
Yes.
You'd broken up. I love all the characters in the book. And one of the things that I noticed so beautifully was how certainly your exes, Jayson, are very much part of your lives together and part of the village that have supported you and now are involved in Roman's life.
That's right.
Peter Morrissey, Jared Clark. Yeah. They were the two I was going to say you mate for life, but you're a serial monogamist.
Yes.
You had, well, not this long. You guys have been together, 15 years?
18
years.
On Saturday.
Yeah.
Aaron, how old are you now?
I'm 45.
Same age as me.
A few months, yeah.
Jace, you're a little bit older, aren't you?
52.
I always think of you as being perennially 25.
Oh, thanks.
You were always like, because you were, I first met you, well, I knew of you and you were working with Morrissey & Edmiston in the peak of Peter Morrissey and Leona Edmiston's label. You'd been a stylist for InXS. You'd worked with our mutual friend Bryna Wolf in America, styling a bunch of celebrities for Vogue and all kinds of magazines and every supermodel in the world. And then you came back to Australia in the 90s when Morrissey Edmiston, it's hard to compare. It was kind of like how Gucci was under Tom Ford. It was like the cool everything label. It was Michael and Helena and Kylie and Elle, and those were the days.
Yeah, it was the 90s. I mean, the 90s was a really exciting decade. It was fantastic.
It was.
And it was the last kind of decade before social media. So there wasn't the immediacy and of stuff. You know, you didn't have
Yeah.
everything wasn't immediate.
You could get away with more.
You could get away with so much stuff. So we did. A lot of stuff.
A lot of
We got
stuff.
stuff.
And so Peter and Leona were like the high profile face of the brand.
Yes.
What was your role as stylist for someone who might not understand? How does a stylist work? You've got the designers. What did you do? You were the creative director, weren't you?
I was creative director, but I'd been styling all of their advertising campaigns for 10 years before that. So I came on as creative director. They were almost on the verge of breaking up anyway. Their partnership was withering. So I was designing quite a lot as well. And it was at the high point when I came into it. And then it really fell apart.
To the low point.
Yeah.
That must have been very traumatic for you as someone who was very close to them both. I mean, Peter
Yes,
and you, were you
yeah.
dating at that stage?
Oh,
Were you
no.
together?
We'd
You were with
been-
Jared
I was
then,
with Jared.
weren't
We'd
you?
been apart since about 92.
Okay, so he was your ex, so that's already weird.
Yeah.
Except not in your life because you tend to keep
I know I
exes in
do.
your
What's
life.
wrong with me?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a really positive thing.
It is. It is.
And so he was still, he was your ex. You had a new partner. They broke up. When I say they broke up, Leona and Peter broke up.
Yeah.
That must have been devastating for you in the middle.
Yeah, it was very difficult because it was getting to the stage where I thought, look, I'm going to get out of here anyway. And then it all became very fragile. And Leona kind of just disappeared. And Peter was very fragile. So I stuck with Peter for another 9 years after
Did you feel
that.
like you had to choose?
I did kind of. Leona and I were estranged for several years afterwards, but now we've become very good friends again, and she's actually Roman's godmother.
Is she still estranged from Peter?
Look, I wouldn't say they're estranged, but they're not friends.
No.
If they bump into each other at a function or something,
Yeah.
they'll say hello, but
Yeah, it was a very intense time, wasn't it, I
Yeah.
imagine, and an
Yeah,
intense passion that...
yeah. Well, like you said, they were so famous. They were such a
Yeah.
celebrity designer couple that it was quite a scandal at the time. It was scandalous. And I remember being in Melbourne on the weekend that the news broke, and it was the same weekend Princess Diana was killed.
Oh, my goodness.
God.
And all these friends were coming up to us in Melbourne and saying, "Oh my God!" I said, "I know Princess Diana's died," and they said, "No, it's more about Morrissey Edmiston."
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Were you in Australia at that time, Aaron? Did you have any
I had
knowledge
just
of?
come, so I'd just arrived, and I remember the day when it happened because I was driving down the road on the street, and I saw Joe Bailey, and he was in a car, and he was driving. He was screaming out. He said, "Did you read the papers?
Was
Did
he
you read the
dating
papers?"
Peter Morrissey at that stage?
Yes, he was.
Joe Bailey,
yes,
the
he
hairdresser.
was. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He was still with Peter at that time.
Yeah, so you remember that from the
I
outside.
remember that,
So when
definitely.
you met him that night at Charlotte Dawson's Hens Night, which was hosted by drag queens
Yeah.
at a gay
much.
club, is that right? Pretty
Well,
much.
it was at Stonewall, and Aaron
Stonewall.
ran Stonewall.
Which was the hottest. How would you
Nightclub.
describe Stonewall?
Oh my God! It was just so much fun. I mean, every night there was something. There was parties. There were people, and you met all sorts of people. And Charlotte was a regular there, and Peter used to pop in all the time. Everyone was there.
You must have
and-
been pretty popular as the manager.
Oh, I was so popular.
And also hot.
I thought he was way out of my league.
Did you?
Oh yeah, he was like the gay 18.
Really?
right.
Yeah.
You were always so handsome, and you
Oh,
still are, but
thanks.
you always were like, you know, and super famous. And I imagine that there was a bit of a queue to get to your door as well.
I'd
So-
never noticed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So he walked in. It was, what was it?
Well, I never really heard about Jayson. All I heard about
He was
was
the secret
Peter.
of
He was
Morrissey
like
and
the
Edmiston,
secret
yeah,
little thing
the
that was
secret sauce.
happening. And
Little thing.
and I've always heard of Peter, and I've kind of always seen him at parties and stuff like that. So it was Charlotte's Hens Night, and Charlotte rang me, and she's like, "Oh, I'm getting married to Scott. Would you do my Hens Night?" And she said, "Just want lots of drag queens and lots of drag shows." And so Charlotte, God bless her soul. So I came into the club. Jayson was standing at the bar, and he was having a conversation with Marilyn Kosh, which is Joe Bailey's business partner, as well as Charlotte. And you can tell what happened after that.
Well, I was single, and I'm rarely single.
No.
No,
It's
very
not your
rarely.
natural state
No,
being
it
single.
wasn't. I was quite a mess,
Yeah.
slutting around.
Yeah.
And they said, "Look, you need a good Jewish boy."
Marilyn being Jewish.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And what did you
Oh yes,
say?
he'll cook for me. That'll be
Yeah,
great.
that'd be great.
I think then we.
And then one walked in.
I
Yes, one
in.
walked in, and then we were pretty smashed.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say we were pretty smitten.
Smashed and smitten.
We were pretty
Smashed
smashed
Well,
and
we
smitten.
weren't really smashed until later in the evening.
well,
but
I
I
don't
kind of
remember.
walked in and I
This
saw
is
him-
just the best story for Roman, how my dad's met.
I know.
Well,
I
it was
know.
Charlotte Dawson's hens night.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
there were drag
yeah,
queens.
Yeah.
And then we got smashed.
Yes.
Which is how most people's parents met, if we're honest.
Probably in the 90s.
Except for Charlotte and the drag queen hens night. So, pretty quickly, guys got serious.
Yes.
Because that's
yeah.
the only way you know how to be, Jayson.
Yes, I
Were
know.
you also a serial monogamous, Darren?
I wasn't really, because at that time I was, I just got out of a relationship.
You were-
Jason just got out of a relationship.
You were
So
single and ready to mingle.
I was single and ready to mingle, and I was running a gay nightclub. It was a popular nightclub. You know, I mean, it's like a smorgasbord, really, of
Yeah.
men coming in every night. I mean, not that
Yeah.
I'm that kind of a person, but
Not anymore.
But I think when I saw him, and when I set my eyes on him, it was pretty much love at first sight. And
Yeah.
I knew at that point, I mean, it probably was too premature at that time, but the next morning I certainly knew that I was probably going to end up being with him for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And
It was
truly,
love at first sight.
It was
I
love at
it
first
was,
sight.
It was Good Friday was the following day, and I remember going to the spin offices where my ex Jared was
Yeah.
working, and I popped in my way home.
Were you stalking him?
No, I was torturing him. I said, I think I've fallen in love. And his response was, "You look dreadful. You haven't slept, have you?"
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, probably
Um,
the wrong thing to say.
And then when was the first time you guys discussed having kids?
pretty much on the first date.
Really? Because
yeah.
that's not what straight people would imagine that two
No.
gay men
No.
would discuss on their first date.
Exactly. I mean, look, we went to watch Life is Beautiful. It was about a father's struggle and, you know, how he protected his child and
Through
what he
the
did.
concentration camps. Yeah.
I mean, I just bawled my eyes out throughout the whole film. I was so sad.
Yeah.
Till today, whenever I watch it, I still cry. A bit of a wuss,
it's an
really.
incredibly moving film.
it's
And that sparked a
incredible.
conversation about fatherhood.
Yeah, I think we went for dinner after and we sat down and I said, oh, you know, something I kind of need to drop the bombshell at this point in time. And he goes, what is it? I said, you know, I mean, maybe it's just the movie, but it's just something I've always had inside me and it's just something I'm not going to change. And that's the way I feel. And he goes, what is it? And I said, I really want to have kids, you know, and is this something you would
Plural.
consider?
Did you hear that?
I did.
Uh-oh.
What are you guys doing after this? And what did you think when he said that, Jake?
Look, you know what? It wasn't really on the gay agenda in the 90s.
It wasn't.
No,
No.
you didn't really think it was going to happen. My generation, it just didn't happen.
And also, people were still closeted back then. It's hard when you
Yeah,
talk to
yeah.
people
Yeah.
now when they're like, oh, Caitlyn Jenner and gender fluid and
Yeah.
whatever. But even being gay then was,
It was a different era completely, you know, and we'd been through, I was of the generation where I was going to a lot of funerals in my 20s because a lot of friends were dying from AIDS. And it was just something
having
that you
kids
thought,
was not
on the
like
agenda.
staying alive was a good outcome in those
you know.
days, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you went through all that. And then in the 90s, we all just started partying because we thought, enough. We've had enough grieving. Let's just have a good time. So
Yeah.
I was still having a good time. And I just didn't really think that it was something you could do. Really. It hadn't really
Of
happened.
course,
It
because
wasn't happening.
people didn't know anything about donor eggs and surrogates,
Yes,
and that
that's
was
right.
not a conversation that was
No,
happening. So, in
no.
your mind, Aaron, when you thought about having a family, how would you thought it was going to happen?
Well, I didn't know much about surrogacy really, and I really thought the only option would be adoption. And I thought, or fostering to some extent. I mean, adoption was definitely the first thing. I kind of really didn't know an exact way of doing it, but I kind of really knew I wanted to do it. So, and I thought I would look into all the options available when the time came, and how soon the time is, I didn't know at that stage.
So you were still in your 20s at this
I
stage
was
when you
very
guys
young,
met,
yes.
and you were in your.
I was about 34.
Okay, and did you think, oh, he'll grow out of it? Like that's just whatever.
You know what? I didn't really think about it that much
You just
for
went,
a
"Oh,
while.
okay."
You know, as I said, it was just something you kind of think, well, how's that going to happen?
It's like, I'd like to go and live in Italy for a year there.
Yeah,
That's
well,
also a
exactly.
lovely
Yeah.
dream. Like,
Yeah.
one
I mean,
day.
you used to hear about it a little bit. You'd get little bits and pieces coming from America, where American gay couples were having children, or they were adopting from China, or something like that. There was a bit of that going on, and when you would go to New York, you would see a few gay couples here and there with prams, but it wasn't. It was very rare, and you
It is,
certainly
yeah.
didn't see it here.
And you had another hurdle to overcome, which was you getting cancer of the testicles of all things.
I know.
What happened? You found it in the shower one day.
Found it in the bath. I was filming Project Runway. We were in Melbourne.
You're a judge.
I was a judge on Project Runway.
Christy Hines was the host at that time.
Yeah. Love Christy. She's another godmother. And I was in the bath and I just felt a lump. So we were back in Sydney the next day, went to the doctor, took some tests. Doctor rang me, said, you've got cancer. And then the next day we had to fly back to Melbourne and film another episode. And I was like, designers, I don't really care about your creations today. Sorry.
Exactly.
It's like,
how did you get through that day?
Oh, it was awful. It was an awful day.
It was the worst
Were you
day.
there? Were you with
I
him?
was there, and I had to take the producers aside and tell them the news, and it was truly heartbreaking. I mean, I just bawled my eyes out. I was crying so much. I just couldn't control myself, and I just didn't want Jayson to see me crying and be upset, because I think at that stage we never knew really what it was. We knew, I mean, cancer just sounds like such a dirty word, a scary word. It sounds like death, like, something so bad has happened to you, and we didn't have all the facts. All we knew that it had to be dealt with straight away. We had to be operated. We had nothing else, and it was like we just didn't want to be there. We wanted to be home together, and
I love how you say we.
We.
Yeah. It's like it's both of you, right? When something like that happens.
Well, it's really hard on your partner as well. I mean, it's a real struggle. But I mean, testicular cancer is like a 95% survival.
You got it early.
Got it taken out.
Feel your balls, boys. And girls, feel his balls. And boys, feel his balls. Everyone feel the balls.
The last thing they said to me when I was going under the anaesthetic, I'm lying there about to go into the operating room, they said, which one is it?
Stop.
I thought, that's so Australian.
That's pretty funny. And they had to take one off.
They took one out.
They didn't take the other one out.
No, just the one. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
And
did you get a fake one?
No.
Like Steve in
they
Sex and
offered.
the City?
No, I know.
Did you discuss that? Like, did you think about it?
Well, the doctor offered, and I thought, then he said some people get it bigger than the original, and I thought that'd be lopsided.
That's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you have any
Strange.
input into that? Like,
Well, I just thought, do whatever you want. I mean, if that makes you happy, because at the end of the day, who's going to see it besides me? So it doesn't really matter.
I didn't want a bit of rubber hanging in my scrotum.
No.
Yeah.
He actually showed me
neither.
he showed me all the different sizes.
Really?
Yeah.
That must have been a fun appointment.
That was gross.
Hold
It was disgusting. I was quite appalled by the whole thing. But, we went through the operation. I was in hospital for a week.
Yeah.
Then I was out. Then I was recovering. It's a, really big scar, etc. And I was recovering. And then I just had to
Where's the scar?
It's on my abdomen.
Really?
Yeah, they go down through that way.
Why do they?
Rather than cutting the scrotum open.
Why? Because
Too
everything
fragile.
could fall out.
Yeah.
Don't know that much about scrotums. But I wouldn't have thought that
Neither do
they'd
I.
have gone through the stomach.
I would have
Yeah, they
thought
went
so
through the
too.
abdomen.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've got to so abdominal surgery, big recovery.
Yeah, big
major
recovery.
surgery.
Big, like a cesarean.
Okay, I thought it
Yeah.
would be like a vasectomy. Like just a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
snip,
No,
ouch.
No.
All
So it
fine.
was like a 5 to 6 week recovery from that.
Wow.
And then I just had to be tested every couple of months at that stage. And every time you go for the test, you're like,
Oh, I can't imagine how that
You're
must be.
dying.
You're just dying every time you go through it. So I kept doing that for about another 6 months, and then the doctor just rang me one day and said, "Look, are you feeling all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He said, "We need you to come in. We found something." So I went in, and they'd found the cancer in my chest, where your testicles originate, and then they
What?
drop.
From your chest?
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when baby boys, it's there first.
I thought they were just up in their abdomens. I'm learning so much. I thought they were just up in their abdomen and they dropped.
No, apparently it all forms here, and then they drop
Chest.
right
Drop
down.
right
So they found it there. So then what happened to happen?
I had to go through chemo then. So I did 4 months of chemo, which was intense. It was like 1 week on, 1 week off.
And you talk in the book about you were given the option of freezing your sperm then, but you didn't take it.
No.
Why?
I think there's so much going through your head. The whole idea of chemo as well. It just wasn't something that I thought about.
Did you think about it, Aaron, on his behalf?
Well, I did think about it, but I think at that time you were just so, you was just so ridden with with emotions. It was just such sad emotions that you just didn't think about it. You just think, well, whatever will be, will be. So, and that didn't seem as important as anything else. I mean, the cancer to us, getting it out and getting it fixed was a
getting it
lot
better.
more important than having a child in the future. And if anything really did fall back at the end of the day, there was still me as plan B. That's what I always thought.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that
That's
really
right, you had
troubled
backup
us.
sperm.
Yeah. I think at that time I just wanted him to be pleased with what he wanted to do, and whatever it works for him to
Sure.
make him feel happy, fine, let's deal with that.
And it's also like, when you work for yourself, it's not like you can take sick leave.
No, and you had your label.
You've got your own brand going.
You were working
on.
together in your
exactly.
Jayson Brunsdon
Exactly.
label there.
So
That's right.
it's a lot of time away from work and trying to keep the operation moving as well, trying to keep the business moving. So a lot of my concentration was thinking, how are we going to do this? How are we going to survive?
More with Jayson and Aaron in a second, but first, a message from our sponsors. When did you start talking about kids again?
It was after chemo. It was a couple of years. It was pretty much around, I would say about 2 or 3 years after chemo, and we started talking about it. We have a little godson named Ty. He's 7 years old, and he spent a lot of time with us. He stayed with us a couple of nights a week, and he was a real delight. So I think the turning point for me was at the time that everything else, all the bad is gone, the chemo's gone, the business failing is gone, and the voluntary administration is gone, and it was just really about
Things were stable again.
Things were
for
stable
the first
again.
time in a lot of years.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we got hit really hard with the crash.
Yeah.
Most of our business was international.
And we lost
So we lost it
everything.
all.
We lost everything overnight. We just woke up one day and there is just nothing, just a mountain of debts. And we had to pay it all ourselves. And we had to make that really, really difficult decision that a lot of businessmen make. And that is to call it a day and close the whole thing down. And so we got rid of all our shops, we got rid of all our staff,
must have
our
been heartbreaking.
studio. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's kind of like you look at...
Or after cancer, is it like, well,
Well,
no one died today.
After I'd been through more through the chemo, after I'd been through the 4 months of chemo and then the whole recovery period, and it really makes you think, maybe I want to do something else.
Yeah.
It's such a life-changing thing. And
Yeah.
you come out the other end, and especially fashion. Fashion can be full of such...
It's can be superficial.
Can be really superficial.
Yeah.
And it seems more superficial after you've been through something
I'm
like
sure
that.
it does.
You don't have any patience left.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, really? Is that all you can think about? Like a hemline?
Yeah, a hemline.
Oh, wow.
Fabrication. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleeves.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So it was difficult for me to get back into it in many ways.
So then you were watching, you started to think of kids again, but you didn't know how you were going to do it.
Yes, that's right.
And you were watching 60 Minutes.
We were.
And you saw an interview with the
Trevor
extraordinary Trevor and
Peter,
who I've met.
yeah.
How many years ago? Maybe 10 years ago. I don't know, 8
I
years
would
ago.
say 7.
7 years ago. I just
7.
started Mamma Mia, and I remember going to their house, wherever it was, and just interviewing them and being so in awe of their story and how they'd done it. So you saw an interview that they did in 60 Minutes and you went, what did you say?
Oh my God. We were both sitting down there. I was paralyzed. And I'm thinking, this is it, Jayson. This is how we're going to do this. And he goes, what are you he goes, okay. So it kind of drilled in. And then I just started going on this whole thing about researching and finding out and, internet searches at hospitals.
Did you
and
reach out to
clinics.
Trevor and Peter?
Yep. I reached out to them, but I think I reached out to them like 6 months or a year after. I wanted to reach out to them, but I thought, let me get to a point where I'm a little bit more comfortable. I wanted to sort of see the whole process, how it works.
So you knew you needed eggs and you needed a surrogate and you knew that needed to be from 2 different women.
Correct, yes.
Right?
That's right, yeah.
And you needed to find a country in which you could do this because you can't
do it here.
Unless it's altruistic surrogacy,
Correct,
right?
yes, yeah.
So you then had to you don't talk about it much in the book, but I was going to ask you, how did you decide that Jayson was going to be the sperm?
Well, we thought that
I just called you the sperm.
Well, we discussed scrotums and testicles.
Jayson, the sperm.
Yeah. Well, initially we always thought plural, kids.
Yep.
And we thought, considering Jayson had gone through testicular cancer, it was going to be a harder thing. So let us
and
just
his sperm's
start.
getting older.
Yeah, and he's getting older. He's 53. I'm still young, and and I thought, well, let's have a go at the very first time.
Yeah.
And let's try it with Jayson. And
Try
if
the
that
old man's
doesn't
sperm,
work,
see if the old man's sperm
Yeah.
works.
My sperm
And then
was
we'll call
wiser.
the younger sperm off the bench if we need it.
and I was pretty
Your
much
sperm had wisdom.
Wisdom.
I was pretty much caught up with
An
the blonde,
experience.
the blonde, blue-eye baby that I seen in photographs of him
That
when he
face.
was
Which
a
didn't
kid.
happen.
Which didn't happen.
Really didn't happen.
Really didn't. Oh.
Oh, but he's got your beautiful face. Like, there's so much of you, obviously,
So much
in
of
that
it,
baby.
Yeah.
So you decided that was pretty easy decision for you both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason's the sperm.
Yeah.
Where's the egg?
That's,
You asked your sister.
we asked my sister.
How did that go?
Well, my sister comes from a pretty traditional background. She's very Jewish. She's moderately religious, and we thought, it would be an amazing opportunity if she would say yes, simply because it would give me a biological link to the child. And I thought, my sister and I we've had a fairly good relationship, but it's always been tumultuous throughout these years. It's been up and down and kind of that. So I thought, well, anyway, I didn't have anything to lose. I was going to give it a shot. So I spoke to Jayson about it. He goes, well, why not? Ask her, see what she says. So we had the conversation.
On the phone.
Yep.
Were you nervous?
We actually met first.
Uh-huh.
And then I said, look, I've got something to ask you. I was shaking because I kind of knew at that point that it wasn't going to be, I knew that she wasn't going to say yes for some
Why
reason.
did you ask?
Well, I thought that was my only option
Yeah,
at that
right.
time because, commercially you're not allowed to buy eggs. So the egg donor has to be, it has to be an egg donor, simply. So you can't buy eggs.
Not in Australia.
Not in
You can
Australia.
overseas.
You can buy overseas. But I just felt it would be so much more beautiful and so much more harmonious if I
Yeah.
had was
Makes
part of-
sense. It's a
yeah,
connection.
It's a
It's
connection.
the closest you could
Yeah.
be
That's
as an
right.
egg.
And I thought, you know what? Do away with the pride. The most she's going to say is no. So why not? I'll just give
Wow.
it a shot. And she was pretty shocked. She was kind of blown away because it was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're asking me this. And she's like, she didn't say much, but I kind of respected her position as well because I think my sister is someone who it would be difficult for her simply because I think she's gone through all that stages. Her kids are big and, she wasn't sure that this was the right decision for her. She did say, I'll speak to my husband. I'll come back to you on it. And
Did she have a problem with you raising a child as a gay couple?
look, those words weren't really said, but I feel to some extent that it could have been
Based on her religious...
based on the religious.
Feelings.
I mean, in Jewish, just to set the record straight, she's a wonderful aunt at the moment, and she just loves him, and she's a wonderful. She's been contributing quite a bit to his life, and she's been great now. But at that time, I think that it was also the perception, raising Jewish, raising all of that.
Two dads.
Yeah, two dads.
Some people are confronted by that,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
guess you must have discovered this along your way several times.
Correct.
Many times.
And it took my sister a long time to recognize our relationship.
Really?
And I think for the first 10 years, it was.
She didn't really talk to me for about 8 years anyway.
Yeah.
We used to. Aaron's parents would come and visit us from Singapore, and we would take them out to dinner, pick them up from. They would be staying with Aaron's sister and her husband and family, and we would pick them up, but we wouldn't go into the house, and then we would drop them off, and we wouldn't go into the house. So I had a very limited connection anyway.
Yeah. And the sore spot was when one of the kids was having her bat mitzvah, and the invitation came, and it was addressed to me alone.
Oh.
That just sliced.
Did you
to me.
go?
No, I didn't. No. It was a matter of principle here.
course.
I've been with this man for, at that stage, about 7 years.
He's the
6
love
or
of your
7
life.
years. He's the love of my life. And it showed no form of respect
I don't remember
about
that.
an existence of our relationship.
He's
And-
angry all over again. Jason's put out all over again.
Yeah.
I'm angry.
Yeah.
I don't recall that at all.
But, it's a Jewish thing in our family. Is
Yeah,
you
but your
forgive
parents,
and forget.
Aaron, in the book, are very accepting. They
Oh my
appear to
God.
have been
they were.
incredibly
Yeah.
accepting.
Yeah.
And there's a beautiful anecdote, Jason, that Aaron writes about your father.
Yeah. When we first told my father, he was like, "You sure you're doing the right thing? Because you'll never be able to do anything again. Because at that stage, we'd been traveling quite a bit. We'd be going to Rio for holidays and blah, 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 and having a great time. And he said, look, you won't be able to do all that kind of stuff again. And we said, but that's okay because we've been doing all that. We've got it out of our systems. Everyone thinks when you're a gay couple, you're like dancing on the tabletops every night.
Don't you?
Drinking champagne. And we weren't anymore. We were kind of at home.
You mean you're not in Mardi Gras?
No.
You're not on a float?
Not anymore.
Every weekend?
Not anymore. Aaron might have still wanted to be. He'd been on quite a few. But, we were kind of homebodies and we were,
you were ready for that change in your life.
Ready for that change, yeah.
So you ended up getting an egg from your cousin who you're very, very close to, who volunteered.
Yeah. Well, I think we came to a point that we knew we needed an egg. Everything else seems to be in motion. It was well and truly in motion.
You found a surrogate. You had the sperm, also known as Jayson.
Consultant. Yeah.
And then you just needed an egg.
Yeah. We needed an egg. And my sister said no.
Yeah.
So we started looking into the internet. We started looking into the donor clinics. We wanted to know what the process was.
Very
how
expensive.
To do it.
Or are there free donor clinics in Australia for eggs?
There is, but I think it's a long wait, put it this way.
Are they free? Are they free?
Well, they can't be sold.
I think they're like $5,000 or something.
Well, that would then go to the clinic because it's illegal for a woman to be paid in Australia to donate her eggs because it's a very different process, obviously, from donating sperm.
Yeah. But it's also all the medical treatments around it. It's it's the transfer, it's all of that.
The extraction,
so that all adds
the hormones.
Up because you're not covered by Medicare in any way. And so we thought, well, we really needed this egg, and we didn't know where it was coming from. We didn't think of Rebecca at that stage because Rebecca and I kind of grew up together. I mean, we were like brother and sister, really. I mean, I lived with her when I first came to Australia. But why did you think
of the sister who you weren't close to, but you didn't think of practically the sister who you were best friends with?
Well, firstly, because she was going through a divorce at that
and
stage.
She was a single mum of 3.
Yes, she's a single mum of 3. She was going through a divorce. It was a was a sad, horrible divorce, and she had moved back with her parents. She wasn't in the right frame of mind.
Sure. You didn't want to be an extra burden saying, hey, also can I have some eggs?
It's a big thing to ask a woman. To ask someone, someone so close to you, in one way you kind of felt like I was protecting her because, she means so much to me, and I just didn't want to.
You didn't want to burden her with
I didn't want to give her that because I knew that if I had asked her, she would have definitely considered it. And but I just thought it was just too much. But I came to a point that I thought, this is it. I had one choice. I had one chance now. I was going to do it.
What I love about the conversation that you describe in the book is you sitting down with her. You'd just been at a family dinner and you guys were talking, and then you're telling her all about it. And then you go, grab her hand and go, what if you gave me your eggs? And then she goes, I know, I'll give you my eggs. And you go, no, I couldn't take your eggs. I couldn't ask you. And I was like, but you just asked her. It was so funny. But so you had the eggs, you had the sperm, you had the surrogate.
Yeah.
And that's ironically when things got complicated.
Yes,
yeah?
That's right.
Because the surrogate was in Thailand. And at that time, surrogacy was legal.
Yes, it was.
So then what happened?
Well, everything was under control. We had planned the whole trip. Rebecca was coming with me to Thailand. She had to go through a whole process of medicines and injections and women's stuff as well for egg retrieval.
Yeah, and that had to happen in Thailand.
It had to happen in Thailand.
Yeah.
Yep. So
at the clinic, IVF clinic.
At the clinic. So we had planned. It was school holidays. Her mother, my aunt, had to take the kids with her to Singapore to be with my family. Jason, myself, and her, all 3 of us went to Thailand.
Gosh, it did take a village to make this baby.
And Rebecca's boyfriend came for a few days, and also...
How did he feel?
He was a little bit... I don't know, he was a bit disturbed, I guess,
Initially.
But
and they
then
had to go
fine.
through counselling, didn't they, as part of the process?
They were fine in the end. And also Esther came, which was Rebecca's mother's sister.
Of course.
Yeah. So
the Jews.
Yeah, the Jews. It takes a village and
it
then
certainly
some
does.
when the Jews are involved.
A lost tribe.
Everybody's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, your family's just in Ballina quietly, waiting for news.
And I'm in an episode of The Nanny.
Yeah, that's But at least you're eating well.
Oh, very well. Too well.
So you're in Thailand, the egg's retrieved, the sperm is delivered, the baby is made and inserted into the surrogate. Did you know much about the surrogate, and did you have any ethical concerns about surrogacy at that stage?
Well, we always had ethical concerns. It was very important for us that she was a good woman. She had done it for the right reasons.
And what did you think of the right reasons were?
Well, I think she's a very devoted Buddhist, and her reasons being doing this was she really wanted to make a difference in someone's life. She felt that it was part of a Buddhist religion to give life, to love, to share. And she met us, and I remember during the interview process that we had with her, and she said to us at the end of it, and she said, you two are like angels. You have very kind face.
That's very true.
It was,
were you interviewing her or she was interviewing you? How's the power balance there? How does it work?
Well, she didn't speak English, so we had an agent. We had which.
So there's an Australian agency.
No, she's Thai.
A Thai.
And
agency.
the reason she started the agency, she started with her sister because her sister could not conceive. So they had a very emotional tie to their business from word go.
How did you find her of all the people on the internet that you could
Sam
have found?
Everingham, who is the head of Families Through Surrogacy in Australia.
Yeah.
He was a real trooper, and through the boys. So the boys, the Melbourne boys, Trevor and Peter, introduced us to Sam, and then Sam introduced us to Kay. And
So
Kay,
it was word of mouth through people who knew and you trusted.
Yeah. And Kay was just wonderful. She had helped in her. I think she had business now, well, not the business, what is it, the business, the organization for about 7 or 8 years at that time. And she had helped nearly 800 couples conceive through ethical surrogacy.
And were many of them gay couples?
I would say it was pretty much 50-50. There were quite a bit, I think there would be a bit more gay couples, but there were a lot of heterosexual couples, a lot of people, a lot of women that were going through it. She told me stories about some of the the sadness that she had with the couples, and then the joy that she helped them.
Was it expensive?
Yes, it was.
Really expensive?
100K.
Wow.
All up. I mean, that's everything. I mean, that's just the trips that we went, all the trips for the kids, all the trips for us, and the accommodation. I mean, the second time we went back to pick him up, we had to stay there for 6 weeks. The first trip was 4 weeks.
So the first trip was when he was conceived?
Yes.
Yes.
And did it work first time?
Yeah, I dropped my sperm.
You are the sperm. And it worked.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Your boys can swim.
I know.
Yeah. We were very, very lucky because a lot of couples don't work the first time.
Wow.
And we had issues with, I wouldn't say there were issues, but the egg retrieval process, at first we were told there was going to be 11 eggs, but by the time they got to the lab, I'm not quite sure how it all works, but by the time
I think they wanted to get to 13 at least.
Yeah.
13,
I remember 13.
yeah.
And there weren't that many.
There weren't that many. So by the time the 5th day, which is the day we implant, and it's called a blastocyst. Blastocyst. And at that stage, we had really one egg that was going to work.
Oh, it was all or nothing.
That was all or nothing.
Yeah.
You were obviously working with good source material.
Yeah. I think we have a spirit guide up there. And
You do.
I mean,
Maybe
God's
it's
watching
Charlotte.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlotte. Yeah.
When did things become complicated? At what point did Thailand outlaw surrogacy?
I think we were about 5 months pregnant.
5 months pregnant.
And keeping it quiet?
Trying
So
to keep
nobody-
it really quiet.
Obviously,
because-
family and friends knew, but
Yeah.
not the media.
Well, I did have a few calls from gossip columnists
Who'd heard.
who'd heard something, and I just said, I don't know what you're talking about. So we had to
denied it.
deny things because at that stage we didn't even know if we were pregnant.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we found out we just kept it really quiet because it's
Yeah.
something you don't. It's really your own business.
Yeah.
So how did you find out that surrogacy had been made illegal?
I saw it on the news. Aaron was in London, and I just got up on a Friday morning and turned on the news, and there it was. And it was a whole baby gammy scandal came out.
There's growing anger over the surrogacy scandal surrounding Gammy, the little Down syndrome baby allegedly abandoned in Thailand by his Australian parents.
And
Was it because of the baby gammy
Yes.
scandal?
Yes.
He was
Yeah.
the catalyst. Yeah.
Okay.
He was the catalyst.
So baby gammy was the Down syndrome twin
Baby.
that was born via surrogacy in Thailand, and the father, not only did the parents leave him there and only take the non-Down syndrome child, but then he was found to have been a former child sex offender.
Yes, but what happened was really, it was the perception, it was the media going on
Was the
about.
perception that people could go to Thailand and buy babies?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was the perception. And I think the media exaggerated it.
So the Thai government had to look like they were doing something.
Correct.
So they said surrogacy's outlawed. So Jason, what did you do when you saw that on the news?
The whole thing started because it was a military coup
Cool.
in Thailand.
Oh.
So it was a junta government, and that's when it all happened. So I saw it on the news, and I tried. Well, I couldn't contact Aaron because of the time difference. So I spent a whole day just
Wouldn't have stopped me.
I tried, like pacing the living room, thinking, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do." I got in contact with Sam Everingham at Surrogacy Australia, and he said, "Look, there's nothing we can do at the moment. We just don't know. You just have to sit tight."
Yeah.
I finally got onto Aaron, and then he just started contacting Sam, seeing what we could do.
Is Aaron calm in a crisis? Who's the calm one among you?
Oh, I'm not the calm one.
I was going to say.
I'm a drama queen. I
Same.
start screaming and crying.
I wasn't
cry at
very
the
calm
drop of
that
You
my
weren't
hat.
calm either.
I wasn't calm
You were
that
crying.
day.
You weren't calm.
I wasn't calm that day.
So
was
Julie
calm.
Bishop came to the rescue.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julie,
yeah.
thanks, Julie Bishop.
She's
I love
calm.
her.
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
Julie Bishop.
She is
Yeah.
a kick-ass woman who
Yeah.
does many kick-ass things with kickassery. So
Yeah.
she came to
Amazing
the
woman.
rescue and very carefully negotiated, because you weren't the only couple who were in this limbo, right?
No, there were
were
hundreds.
of
Yes.
couples.
I think there were about 300. I'm not quite sure what the statistics are, but I think there was somewhere about 300 couples.
And it seems so logical because I imagine that the surrogate mothers were all freaking out, going, I
Everyone's
don't want a
freaking
baby.
out.
Like everyone's
Absolutely.
freaking out,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Julie Bishop came, negotiated that everyone with an arrangement already in train was free to take their babies.
Yeah.
So you then went for the birth. Tell me about the actual birth.
It was amazing. It was wonderful. I mean, we got there about 10 days before. We went out to dinner with our surrogate and the agent and all her children, the surrogate's children, her husband. And then they said, "Which one of you wants to be in the operating room?" And I said, "Aaron, you go."
So it was a cesarean.
it was cesarean.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah.
They book it in for cesarean, so it's easier, it's less painful, and there's a little emotional tie.
Yes, because you're not going through the labour.
You're not going through
Yeah.
labour.
It's more like having a tooth pulled.
Detachment.
Yeah,
A baby.
yeah, yeah.
So you were there.
I went in.
Were you
yeah.
in the gory end?
Oh my
Did you see
God.
the stuff?
Yeah, no, I saw a bit of blood, a bit of
Did you?
mucus, and but yeah, I mean, it was just the whole experience was just so surreal. I just was
And
numb.
quick.
Was it?
It was like 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I
you were
was-
outside pacing
I'm outside pacing, but not pacing for very long.
and you were inside crying.
Crying.
Yeah.
I was shaking and trembling so much. I was just numb. And all I could remember was saying, "I love you. Daddy loves you. Papa's
my
waiting
God.
for you. Papa's waiting for you."
Did
And
you
I
know it
said-
was going to be a boy?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
We did. And I'm like, I said, "I'll never leave you. I'll always be here for you. I mean, I know you have to cry now, but I'm going to make sure you're never going to cry again." You know?
Yeah,
How's that
right.
going for you? How'd that go
Oh,
for
look,
you?
really great.
Yeah. And she's like, the pediatrician, she says, like, she goes, "You're just shaking too much. I can't give you the baby. You have to sit down. You have to
'Cause
sit
you're
down."
shaking. You'll
I
drop
was
the baby.
shaking. Yeah, I was
And he
just
filmed it.
shaking.
I'm just hijacking your ears for 2 seconds to tell you some exciting news. I've written a book. It's called Work-Strife Balance, and it's for guilty friends, bad mums, crap wives, imperfect feminists, rebellious daughters, and any girl with a big mouth and at least one foot in it. It's for any woman who's ever asked, "Am I the only one who isn't coping?" It has personal stories, life lessons, strategies for dealing with work and friends, and overwhelm and anxiety, and body issues, and parenting and relationships. And if you pre-order now, you'll get access to a bonus 3-part sneak peek book podcast where I break down the chapters with my son, Luca Levine, who actually wrote one of them, and exclusive access to a Work-Strife Balance Kickstart webinar with me, where I will run you through all the tips, tricks and tools that I've learned in my 2 decades of being a parent, 1 decade running a women's media company, and 45 years of being a woman. Plus, if you order now, you'll get 20% off the retail price. Just go to booktopia.com.au. Work-Strife Balance, the new book by me, Mia Friedman, for every woman who reckons that balance is bullshit. The surrogate mother had to relinquish custody for you to leave the
did.
country with
Yeah.
Roman.
Yes,
Yeah.
she did.
Were you on tenterhooks, or you always thought that was going to happen, or you just never knew?
You just never know, really. I mean, look, we just thought she was... We always knew that she was a very wholesome person, and the chances of it happening was very slim. I think after we met her family, and we met her kids, and we met all of them, and we understood that she really didn't want our family.
Because she had no biological connection to this child.
No.
Yeah.
She was purely the carrier.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Yeah. She came to visit him when he was about 2 weeks old.
Before you left.
Yeah.
You write very movingly about that, about watching her hold him for the first time because she didn't hold him in hospital. You took him straight home.
Well, he was in hospital for about 5 days. Took him home, and she came with Kay, with the agent, to visit him, and it was very sweet.
Did you think, oh my God, what if she just walks away with it? What if she just runs out?
You know, I didn't. I never kind of had those feelings because she was such a beautiful person.
Yeah.
She had such a lovely face. And
She's
she was
just gorgeous. Yeah, she's just gorgeous. She's just really, really kind and wholesome woman, you know.
But you said she seemed sad on that day.
She was sad.
Obviously there was a connection that
of course.
he was very still in her arms.
Well, we were at the embassy and we were filling in forms and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So my mum and dad were there and they were looking after Roman, and we said, well, we won't be back. We'll be back with Pawn and Kay just to meet Roman.
Pawn's the name of the surrogate.
The surrogate, yep. So we got to the apartment, and as soon as I opened the door, Roman was screaming, and my mom's like, she's really good with babies. She's like, your kid's been screaming for half an hour, and I've given him milk, doesn't want to do it. And I said, oh, don't worry about it, we're back now. And then Pawn was behind me, and she walked in, and then I handed her Roman. I picked Roman up and I handed it over to her, and there was this calmness. It just stopped. The crying stopped. The whole thing was just so surreal. I mean, it was so moving. I started to cry myself. And Mom said to me in Malay, because she didn't really want them to understand, she goes, he knows it's his mother. He knows he's been in the stomach for 9 months.
He knows the smell.
Recognizes the smell.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of, thinking, who is she kind of thing, So, it was very moving. And we took some photos, and I said to her, that I really wanted her to participate in some extent in the future. And I think it would be very amazing if one day Roman grew up and went to meet her and
said, thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's right.
What's his relationship with Rebecca? What was it like when Rebecca met him for the first time?
Oh, it was very sweet. It was the day we got back, the morning we got back, she came over. It was gorgeous. He's really close to Rebecca.
Is he? And how does she see her? Because one of the things that your sister said when she said she didn't want to be an egg donor was, I want to be his aunt, not his mother.
Correct.
And then you talk about trying to define what his relationship with Rebecca is going to be. And is it going to be an aunt? Is it going to be a friend? Is it going to be a godmother? And you kind of go, well, what is it? You tell me. What did you decide?
Well, the conversation was very transparent between us.
Yeah.
We there was no secrets with me and Rebecca and with Jayson as well. It was always, everything was just out on the table and let's deal with it. I think for weeks we just trying to work out what it was going to be. And then I think at that moment when I saw Pawn with Roman, it kind of clicked something in us. And I think the thing that we had this conversation after, and I think one of the things it clicked was that we never wanted Roman to be deprived of anything. Every kid needs a mother, full stop. And the reality of it is that she is his mother. She is his biological mother. And I think that was the turning point. And so as soon as I came back, I said, well, we rang her straight after. I think that was the next day or something. And we said, look, I think it would be best, if you agree, it would be best if Roman calls you mommy and mama, because you are his mama. And I said, and I think that's something so beautiful.
And now she is mama, Aaron takes Roman off to Shabbat every Friday night, and he's always excited. I'm getting him dressed, and he's like, I'm going to see mama. I go see mama.
Yeah, right. So it's just, for him, that's what mama is. Mama lives in a different house.
Mama lives in Bondi.
That's right.
With my other brothers and sisters who lives there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And why shouldn't it be like that?
That's
so
right.
it's like, I imagine part of it is just making up the rules as you go along that suit your family and your circumstances.
That's right. Yeah. Because it's I think the norms about nuclear family and all the rest of it's all gone. It's out of the door now. It's you're trying to break traditional norms here. Every day we tell Roman that you're a special kid. You've got a dad, you got a daddy, you got a papa, you got a mama, you got siblings, you've got 3 sets of grandparents. So even Rebecca.
So much love.
Yeah. And 7 godmothers.
Yeah, 7 godmothers.
7 godmothers.
So you certainly, anyone who says, what about the female influence in his life? He's got
So
an
many.
oversupply
Oversupply.
of
Yeah.
ladies.
Yeah.
Plus you've got Charlotte looking down, doing her
Exactly.
part, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Yes. Yeah.
Today, Romans 2.
Yeah.
Have you got another one cooking yet? How's your sperm going?
I think that's on hold for a while.
It's full on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's full on.
Look, I just, people keep asking me and I keep saying, like, give me a break. I'm going to be 53 this year. By the time we go, because the way it's going, we would have to take it offshore again and go through the process
It's not
somewhere
like
else.
straight couples where you can just go, oops.
Whoops, sorry.
again.
That was
Whoops.
fun.
Yeah.
No. So we would have to take it offshore again. We would have to figure out where to do it again.
Yeah.
By the time it all happened, I'd probably by my mid to late 50s, and I don't think it's fair on a child to have me kind of crippling, staggering around when I'm 60.
You'll still be the coolest dad in the car line. You will.
You know what I mean? I'll be like, don't do that. Get to sleep. So
No, by that time you'll be deaf and you won't hear the baby cry. It's a lot to be said for being an older dad.
Yeah.
How is he now? He's 2. He's starting to talk.
Yeah, he's talking a lot.
Talking a lot. Like from the minute he wakes up,
He started talking at 1.
Really?
Yeah, he's very clever. He's a really
Imagine
clever
he had a lot
boy.
to say.
Yes.
He keeps picking up the book and he goes, "Oh, I am a designer baby," and it's like, "Daddy, the book's about me.
Yeah.
Daddy,
My
the
book.
book's
It's
about
my book.
Papa.
Wow. And he's only 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he grabbed the book off me the other day because I was reading it, like reading a bit about it, and he says, "No, I want to read it. I will read it to you."
Oh my God. He's actually a genius.
He is.
Did he ghostwrite the book?
He's read it.
He's read it, exactly.
Yeah.
He proofread it.
Yeah.
And the pictures are beautiful. Congratulations on the book. Congratulations on your
Thank
beautiful
you.
family, on finding each other. I can't wait till you can get married.
Yeah.
That's the
Yes.
next hurdle.
Yeah.
And we will, of course, do everything that we can to
Absolutely.
keep fighting for marriage equality.
Yeah.
And he will be a very cute little groomsman.
He will be.
He will be, for sure.
He will be adorable.
Muzzle tov to you both.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you so much,
Thank you.
Mia.
Big
Thank
love.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
Oh, I'm just all full of love. Now, please, Malcolm Turnbull and every politician in Canberra, can they please get married? Please, can Romans fathers get married? Okay. No Filter was brought to you by the Telstra Smart Home app. Telstra brings you the magic of technology with Smart Home, a clever little app that lets you manage your home from everywhere. You can buy Aaron's book Designer Baby from Booktopia or iBooks at apple.co/Mamamia. And this is where you can subscribe to all our other shows in one place if you don't already have the Mamamia podcast app, which is, we're launching more shows every 5 minutes. Half the time I don't know what we're launching. So I have the Mamamia podcast app on my phone, and every day when I go and refresh it, I'm like, oh, we launched another podcast while I was asleep. Excellent. Thank you, Monique Bowley, who is the executive producer of podcasts at Mamamia, who launches more podcasts than I can even keep track of, and the head of entertainment, Holly Wainwright. If you want to suggest a guest or just ask me a question or tell me about a book that you've read that someone in it might be a good interview subject, call the pod phone on 02 8999 9386 or flick me an email at podcasts@mamamia.com.au. You know which one I prefer. I prefer the email. I'd always prefer the email. And I read all your emails about No Filter because podcasts are different to kind of writing a post where, people leave comments underneath. Sometimes I kind of put this out into the ether and it really helps me to know how you feel. But even better than emailing me is to go to iTunes and leave a review. And if it's 5-star, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I wouldn't be sad if it had 5 stars in it and maybe the subject line was best podcast ever, because that helps more people to find out about the podcast and that helps us to make more of them for you. So sharing is caring, and 5-star reviews on iTunes is also caring. Also send this podcast to a friend if you know someone who'd enjoy it, someone who's maybe got a car trip coming up, someone who's got a long commute to work, someone who likes to cook and gets bored in the kitchen. I made a banana cake last night and I listened to a podcast. I listened to a sneak peek of another new podcast we've got coming up that I can't tell you about. See, I just clickbaited this whole intro, outro thing. Now, the important thing I have to tell you is today's show was produced by someone who is wearing tiger pants, just like me. If you go on my Instagram, you can see what the producer of No Filter looks like. Her name is Elias Ratliff, and she and I own an inordinate amount of clothes that are actually the same. If not the actual same, then variations of the same in the same fabric. And today we are both wearing pants with tigers on them. It's in her contract that she has to dress like me. Actually, if the truth be told, usually she buys everything first and I style stalk her because she has exceptional taste. I think that's all I've got to tell you, except you can subscribe to my newsletter at miafriedman.com. And also, if you want to buy my book, Work, Strife, Balance, please, you can. Go to booktopia.com.au or go to miafriedman.com. And that's all I've got to tell you. And I love you and thank you. And I'll see you on the internet. Bye.